Hello guys, I am Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com, and I am here today with lesson number 11 on how to build that successful engineering career. Now in lesson number 10 we talked to you about that all-important first year on the job, and what we explained is that you're going to sort of set a template or set a pattern or make an impression in that first year that is going to either make you or break you. Very important for you to go back and review that video. You have to get your career started on the right track. But now we're going to start talking about things, okay, not just the first year, but ongoing in a career. How do you build a successful career? And one of the things that I'm kind of speaking from is I had executive positions in companies. At the national labs, I had 500 scientists and engineers that worked for me, so I was able to have a very broad view of many different engineers over many years, and then in different companies. And so I'm coming to you with things that I saw that seem to happen over and over, and this in particular is something that will really wreck your career, and it's a trap that's very easy to fall into. And so what I'm going to tell you is that one of the most important things on having a successful engineering career is to be very mindful about not creating enemies. Okay, do not create enemies. A very wise man told me once that friends may come and go, but enemies accumulate. And that is really true, man. That, you know, you got a friend, you know them a while, they go somewhere else, friends come and go, but man, if you really make an enemy, that guy is never going to forget you. It's sort of like, you know, you just somehow, that guy is always going to have hard feelings. And once you have an enemy, it's very hard to ever mend that. So one of the themes of this series of lessons is it's a lot easier to not fall in a hole than it is to try to climb out of that hole once you've fallen in it. So what are we going to remember? We're going to remember that friends may come and go, but enemies accumulate. So we got to make sure that we're not making enemies. And one of the kind of dangerous things is it's sort of like there's a mindset that you can fall into that will really get you in trouble. And that mindset is that, man, there's 8 billion people in the world. If I tick this guy off and he doesn't like me, that's okay, because there's still 7.9999999 billion people that I can work with. And so it doesn't really matter if I break the relationship with this person. Man, the thing is, you don't realize what a small world it is, and particularly when you're talking about the high-tech world, and even sort of across different engineering fields, when you're talking about computer science, engineering across multiple disciplines, and even sort of like the advanced sciences. That's a very small world, and you are really like almost connected to everybody in that world by just one or two hops. Like, I know 1,000 people that I would have an opinion on. Those 1,000 people each know 1,000 people. So within about 3 hops, you have multiple paths to just about everybody in the high-tech world. So what does that mean? That means that you just can't afford to make enemies, okay? And I'm going to sort of say this in 3 different areas. If you're at school, I know a lot of the subscribers to this channel are still in high school or college. Man, don't make enemies in high school. Don't make enemies in college, especially in college. Just think, that guy that you got a problem with, that you're helping to foster him becoming an enemy, he's going to be out in the workforce. Who knows? One day you might need to interview with him for a job. Who knows? One day you might be trying to land a contract with a customer, and lo and behold, there's that guy in charge of making the decision. Don't make enemies. It is not worth making enemies. So don't make enemies at school, because you're going to run into those people again. Number 2, when you have a job, don't make enemies inside of your company. And this is something that I just see happening a whole lot, because we're competitive and we want to get ahead and we want to get that bigger raise and that promotion. And it's very easy to cross the line where it's not just enough for me to have success, for me to solve a problem, for me to do something that makes me look good to the company, that it enhances my career if not only I look good, but if I can make someone else look bad. So like, if I can look good and make someone else look bad, then I've got a big gap between me and them. No, Don't do that. Do not make enemies inside of your company. Because, if you make an enemy inside of your company, like you do something underhanded and you make an enemy, what if that guy gets promoted? Okay, let's say he's not even in your organization, but you work here for this guy and he works over here and now he's promoted. You don't think that he's going to have impact on your career? Okay, don't make enemies. The guy might get promoted. Okay, there is just no good reason to make an enemy. So don't have enemies at school. Don't have enemies inside your company. Don't have enemies outside your company. And I'll tell you, this is something that I sort of learned some things the hard way. There were times that I was in my career not mindful of the importance of not making enemies. And I was working in the world of non-volatile memories, that's integrated circuit chips that retain their data when the power is taken off. And it's sort of like the whole industry believed that there was a mechanism for that data, that slowly forgetting the data over time, that it doesn't remember it forever, and why does it forget it? And there was a mathematical and physical model explaining that. And I came along and I sort of determined that no, that wasn't right. It's a different mechanism that's leading to it. And so I sort of said the established mindset, if that's really right, then if I did this experiment, this thing should happen. But if I'm right and I do this other experiment, this thing should happen. So then I did the experiment very carefully. It absolutely showed that the mechanism that I identified was correct. Okay, so great interest in this, great controversy. So I was invited to a very famous electrical engineering conference to present my results. I went to the conference. I was like the keynote speaker. I presented these results that showed that the industry and the predominant current thinking on memory loss was incorrect. Okay, now the person out there who was responsible for being the sort of champion of the establishment view of things was in the audience and spoke up and sort of said something, I don't remember what they said, like, oh, well, has this been verified by any independent testing, sort of like accusing me of maybe like making up the data or something. And so like I have a quick wit and I think quickly on my feet and I'm sharp, and man, I just said something to that person that really in front of 1,000 people humiliated them. And in fact, I said it and it's like everybody died laughing. It was insulting him in a funny sort of way, and everyone in that room just died laughing. And then I was the big hero because I not only showed that my new theory was right, I humiliated this guy. And man, you don't question me at a conference because I'll just slice you to pieces. And so I kind of really had my day in the spotlight there, humiliating this guy. Now what I could have done was I could have just responded, well, it's always good to confirm things, but I stand by these results and I welcome anyone to come along and test. So maybe if you'd like to come in and we could jointly test these things. I am confident in my test results. I am confident in my theory. That would have been a respectful way to handle it. But no, I humiliated the guy. Well, guess what? It was probably 5 years later, this person ended up at DARPA and ended up in charge of their advanced integrated circuits organization at DARPA. And DARPA is the organization that hands out billions of dollars of research funding. Okay, my organization had a new idea for a new chip, and so we needed to go to DARPA to get funding for that. Guess what? Guess who I found? That guy that I had humiliated. Guess what? We didn't get the contract. It was not only that, we never got any money from DARPA. It wasn't just from that organization. From this organization over here, we couldn't get money because this person would run over here and say, "Don't give them money," because, and he'd come up with some reason. He didn't say, "I don't like them because they embarrassed me one day," but they would always come up with a reason. And so not only could I not get money from DARPA, my organization couldn't get money from any part of DARPA because of that. Man, don't make enemies. Friends may come and go, but enemies may accumulate. And so I want you to be very mindful of always maintaining positive relationships with the people around you. Okay, what are things that make enemies in a company? Number one, operating in a way that is underhanded. Okay, let me give you an example. Like again, I want to look good and I want the guy next to me to look bad. So let's say that I was at a meeting. Let's say that I'm working with this other guy in my organization, that I'm in the testing, integrated circuit testing group, and then I've got a number of people in my organization, and then we're working with some designers who are designing a new integrated circuit. All right, and so let's say we're going to meetings with the designers, meeting with the designers, and the guy in my organization that works in the next office, he misses one of those meetings, and at that meeting it comes out that the designers are going to slightly change the spacing of the test pads on the integrated circuit. No big deal, I just make note of it or whatever. All right, so then my buddy, he's responsible for ordering the test probe cards. Okay, they're very expensive, takes a long time to get them in, and so he's getting ready and he orders those test cards. Okay, now what I know is that he was not at that meeting and he doesn't know that the spacing changed. Okay, and so I don't bring it up. Okay, and then one day, that same week, we're in a meeting with my boss, and I just kind of throw out, because I know this guy's not gonna pay attention. I say, well, man, we got to make sure that we are very careful when we order probe cards, because we got to make sure always that we get our spacing right. And the guy says, yeah, okay. But you see, I sort of plant that little thought. All right. So then a month later, the chips come in, the new integrated circuit chips come in, and the probe card comes in, and the guy in my organization sits down to test them. He puts his probe card in, and guess what? It doesn't match. It doesn't fit. He can't do the testing. Well, who looks really bad? He does. Who looks really good? Me. Okay, but that guy knows what I did to him. He knows that I knew, and he knows that I deliberately didn't tell him so that I would look good in front of the boss and he would look bad in front of the boss. Okay, now, first of all, that's silly and that's petty, but you know what I just made? I made a lifelong enemy from that guy. Okay, he is going to be out to get me from now on. Don't be underhanded. Don't do things like that. Okay, help your co-workers. You want the rising tide, a rising tide lifts all boats. Okay, don't be underhanded like that. And you might think that that's a crazy example, but you wouldn't believe how many times I saw something like that happen. Okay, then, so number one, don't be underhanded. Number two, don't trash people behind their back. So let's say now this guy ordered the wrong probe cards. Now what I do is I go all around. Man, I'll tell you, we're losing 3 weeks because Joe can't get his act together. All he had to do was order the probe cards, and he didn't even check. He did not even check to make sure that he had the right spacing. See, then you start trash talking. Man, don't trash talk about your co-workers. And this is just rampant in the engineering field, because I think engineers tend to be a little bit arrogant and a little bit prideful, and they tend to have a little bit of a critical spirit. Man, do not have that critical spirit. Do not sit and trash your co-workers behind their back, because they're going to hear about it, and then you're going to have an enemy. Okay, number three, don't celebrate when others fail. We end up in this mindset like, oh, my part worked really well, I look good. This guy, his part didn't work, he failed. Look, I look good and he failed. Wow, that's a good thing. No, that's a bad thing. Because for your company to succeed, for your company to continue to be able to give you gainful employment, the company must succeed. And for the company to succeed, the integrated circuits need to not only be designed right, they not only need to be manufactured right, the right probe card needs to be there so that they can test them. But this idea of something bad happening to somebody near me is a good thing, that is so short-sighted, but it is so prevalent in the engineering field. Okay. Next thing, so don't celebrate other people's failures. Next thing, always make sure that you negotiate in good faith. Okay, and again, this is kind of like one of those tricky things that that will happen. Like, let's say that all my experiences with Hewlett-Packard test equipment. So naturally, I sort of want, as we're getting ready to order new equipment, I want to order the HP because then I don't have to learn anything new. But this other guy, he wants to order Keithley because the Keithley has some new capabilities that the HP doesn't. So he really wants to move to that next thing. Man, I don't want to do that. So then I start negotiating, not in good faith. Okay, so let's say that I am arguing for all the reasons for HP, and he's arguing all the reasons for Keithley, and this goes on back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and then we come into the boss to make the final decision, and he's just given all of the reasons that we should get Keithley, and kind of trying to counter all the arguments of why that I had of why we could get HP. But you know what? There was something that I never told him. I never told him that those Keithley instruments, I'd looked into them, and they have a hard ground, they don't have a floating ground, and to be able to test our particular integrated circuits, you have to have a floating ground. And so I just sort of spring that on him at the last minute in front of all the management, and then he looks foolish because I'd never told him that in the initial conversations and debate we were having. I waited till the last minute, and it was a showstopper, and I sprung it on him, embarrassed him, humiliated him, made him look bad. Made me look good, made him look bad. What do I have? I have an enemy now. Okay, so always negotiate honestly and negotiate in good faith. Okay, don't needlessly step on toes. Don't insult people. Don't needlessly step on toes. Your goal in the company should be to get along with everyone. You should be viewed as the guy who is not only successful, but the guy who makes other people successful. Okay, and it will work out, right? Other people don't have to fail. If you succeed and they succeed, that's better for you. Don't try to make other people fail. You don't want to needlessly step on toes. Okay, next thing, way to make an enemy, taking credit for what other work that other people have done. That if you are part of a team and you write a memo or you write a report or you write a paper or you give a presentation, you need to go out of your way to give credit for everybody who contributed to the project. And I mean, your goal should be, if I'm the guy giving the presentation, how many other people's name can I mention in that presentation? Like, okay, I'm going to give you the results of our failure analysis, and man, I'll tell you, Joe was in here late at night doing the statistics on this. I'm presenting the data, and Tom took the measurements and Joe did the statistics, and we got we got this report put together. I'm going to tell you what everybody found, but see how many people you can mention, and it's like this mindset that any credit that goes to someone else is credit that is taken away from me. No, credit is not a zero-sum game. You can freely give credit, and as you freely give credit to other people, your persona will actually increase, not decrease. So give credit to other people. Okay, don't be underhanded. Don't trash people behind their back. Don't celebrate when others fail. Negotiate in good faith, okay? And don't take credit for other people's work. So let's talk about some things that you should do. Those were things that, like, don't make enemies. What are some things that you should do, some positive things? Number one, always be honest. Always be honest. And honesty is more than just not lying. Honesty is never withholding data, never withholding facts. There's people out there that it gives them power to be the keeper of certain things, and they don't let other people know until just the right moment when they spring it on them. No. Always, always, always be honest. Honesty is telling the truth. Honesty is not withholding data or facts. Number two, be respectful. Sometimes you will be in a technical disagreement, and sometimes you will be in a debate, but always do that in an honorable way where you're showing respect to the other person. Okay, it is okay on technical issues and on strategy to debate vigorously. You can debate vigorously, but when a decision has been made, get behind it. Okay, and I used to work in places that it was so bad that it was almost like the motto was, the decision has been made, let the debate begin. Okay, no, you debate before the decision. Once the decision has been made, you need to get behind it. Okay, and man, this is something too that I see is that people will sort of like, I think that we should order the HP, and the other guy thinks that we should order the Keithley, and we vigorously debate it, and then the decision is made. We're going to get the Keithley. I didn't get my way. Okay, and then you know what? I don't get behind that decision. I start trying to sabotage that decision. All right, so all the Keithley equipment comes in, and I see them putting it into a rack, and what I see is that they're packing it too tightly, and I happen to know that the Keithley need a certain level of airflow because their fans, you know, aren't suitable for a closed back, and I see they're putting it in a cabinet with a closed back, and you know what I do? I don't say anything because I'm mad that they ordered the Keithleys. I want the Keithleys to fail because you didn't listen to me. So you know what happens? They put all those Keithleys in that rack that has the back on it, doesn't have an open back, and in 2 months all the equipment fails. Okay, and I celebrate. You see, you should have listened to me and gotten the HPs. No, man, the company needs to succeed. For you to succeed, the company needs to succeed. When a decision has been made, get behind it and try as best you can to make that work, even if it wasn't what you wanted to do. And never sabotage something like that, because you know what? People know. People will figure out what you're doing. They will see what you're doing, and you will have enemies. Okay, and so again, you know, be respectful, be quick to give credit to people, and understand that one of the greatest things that you need to move forward in your career is to have advocates, not adversaries. And so one of the biggest mistakes that I see engineers make is to overlook the importance of this human element. Do not have enemies. Do not have enemies at school. Do not have enemies in your company. Do not have enemies outside your company. Okay, I hope you guys found this useful. Put your comments down below, especially you guys that are in school now. I mean, are you seeing opportunities to have enemies, opportunities to build relationships? How about in a company? Have you seen people that have done any of the things that I've talked about? How did it work out for them? Really would like the comments down below to kind of be a forum for discussion and get some other perspectives. If you like this video, think about giving us a thumbs up. Think about subscribing. Think about sharing this video with others. Okay, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com, and we will talk to you guys later.